Questions on the floor? On the floor? Oh, okay. Initials SA from Newark, New Jersey. Assalamu alaikum. Is it permissible for a woman to correct a man's recitation in Salah?
Bismillah. Question comes from Newark, New Jersey. Assalamu alaikum. Is it permissible for a woman to correct a man's recitation in Salah? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. If his husband and wife, or mother and son, etc., brother and sister, as far as most of the masjids today, maybe 90% of the masjids around the world today, they're totally separated and segregated. So it's a total hypothetical question. The sisters are in a different location, in a different area than the men, and there is no way in which, in most cases, a man can hear a sister. So there's no point in asking the question if it's the traditional way in which most masjids around the world are. As far as if the masjid is in a way in which the women are in the back of the men without a border and a separation, and they can hear her voice, then that's a different scenario. It's a different scenario. Al-Muhim, if it's a large congregation, then the men should correct the imam. Whether the imam forgets and he needs someone to remind him and refresh him, whatever the case may be. So that's one thing. But often it's very, very hypothetical. What's the chances of the brother leading the salah and having rows of men and no one corrects him and the sister way from the back corrects him? Everyone understand this? But hypothetically, in the house or a small congregation, none of him, I don't know of any specific prohibition from the sunnah which prevents a woman from doing so. The hadith that mentions إنما تسبيح للرجال أو تصفيق للنساء, that saying subhanallah is for men and clapping is for women, or hitting the leg is for women, then that hadith, as we've explained, was mentioned pertaining to a khata, a mistake in the actual prayer and the movements of the prayer, yani sujood sahw. And it's not necessarily mentioned pertaining to recitation and a person forgetting something in the recitation. And Allah knows best.
Next question, initials JA from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Arabic full-time for a year now. I've purchased some children books in Arabic to read, but I also have a book that teaches you 80% of the words in the Quran. Which book should I spend more of my time with?
Question comes from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Assalamu alaikum. I've been studying Arabic full time for about a year now, and I have a book that teaches vocabulary for Arabic children or Arab children, and a book that teaches about 80% of the Quranic vocabulary. Which should I spend more time on? It depends on which level you are in your studies. It depends. Ala kullin, if you've only been studying a year, then perhaps it's best to spend most of your time on the children's book. Perhaps it's best for you to spend most of your time on the children's book. And from time to time, here and there, you dip and you dab in the book that teaches you the Quranic vocabulary. And it doesn't mean that the children's vocabulary is better. The Quran is not the focus. It doesn't mean that. It's like eating first before you pray, or using the bathroom first before you pray, in which that pertains to you and your benefit as a human. But it also lays the path. It lays down for you to perfectly take care of yourself so you can take care of the rights of Allah. And the same applies to learning Arabic. Learn Arabic as a language initially before you learn it as a religious act. And that's not for the purpose of the dunya, comes for the deen, but it's giving precedence to the dunya in order to take care of the deen. But it doesn't mean that you never ever learn and study any of the Quranic vocabulary. But give more time as a beginner to learning the language in baby steps. And Allah knows best. May Allah give you success.
Initials FA from Belgium, East Flanders. Musa was fake and Gilad, like pagan had and Gilad by his people. It doesn't say Musa made takfir on them. Can someone be a Muslim while being ignorant of Tawheed?
Question is from where?
Belgium, East Flanders.
Question comes from East Flanders, Belgium. Musa alayhi salatu wasalam is mentioned in the Quran that his people asked for him to make an ilah, kama lahum aliha. As Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned in Surah Al-A'raf, the 7th chapter of the Quran. And it's not mentioned that Musa alayhi salatu wasalam made takfir on them. So can a Muslim be ignorant of Tawheed without being a kafir, etc.? At the end of the day, who said that it's not mentioned that Musa didn't make takfir on them? Who said that? What does the end of the ayah say? That Musa said that there are people who do what? La. What does Allah say? Tajhalun. He says you're ignorant. And then Allah Azza wa Jalla, He mentions in the next ayah what Musa alayhi salam said in the discussion regarding them. So who said that they weren't considered to be upon kufr and shirk by that act or that statement? That's first and foremost. Secondly is, who said that they weren't excused for one reason or another, but without Musa alayhi salam keeping silent and instructing them and immediately repudiating them and explaining to them the dangers of what they asked for. And if they had asked for it critically. Secondly is, the story of Musa alayhi salam is a very long story. It's a saga. And we know that the Quran al-Kareem, as we explained in Green Lane Masjid, is not always mentioned in chronological order. Every story in the Quran is not always mentioned from beginning to end. Rather, the Quran being sent down is one thing, and the Quran or the Mus'haf being put into order is another thing. The ulama of Islam, they say without any doubt, the Prophet ﷺ, he made the order of the ayat. Alif Lam Mim to the end of Surah Al-Baqarah. He made the order of the ayat. But the order of the surahs is not necessarily from the Prophet ﷺ. And the ulama, they differ over this. Was it the Prophet who put the surahs in order from Baqarah to Nas? Or was it the Sahaba? At the end of the day, not going too deep into ulum al Quran right now, the Quran does not always give every story from beginning to end. You may read in Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah talks about Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. O people of Israel, remember my favor upon you. That's the beginning in which Allah talks about what? Ahlul Kitab and the Jews. Is that the beginning of the story of the Jews? Not necessarily. And you may read another surah and another ayah or another surah in which Allah talks about the beginning of Bani Israel. And another surah talks about the end. They were destroyed. And Fir'aun was destroyed. So the Quran is the story of Musa is a saga. It's a complete saga. And if you wish to properly understand it and properly extract rulings from it, you have to lay it down, analyze it, and start from beginning to what? End. And take all of it. Musa did this, Harun did that, Samiri, and so forth. I understand this. They were cursed. Yatihuna fil ardi. They were lost in the land for 40 years. And Surah Al-Ma'idah, you have to take what? All of that. And not just cut and paste one specific part and use it as a dalil. Everyone understand this? So just look at those few surahs that I mentioned. Allah mentions Baqarah. He talks about Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. Right? Surah Al-A'raf, Surah Taha, Surah Al-Nazi'at. And many other surahs Allah talks about Musa and Fir'aun and Harun, etc. So you can't just take one part and leave off another or not put it in a proper chronological order, in which Musa did say this about them, and Harun did leave them, and Musa did become angry, and Allah did punish them, and they were, etc. You understand this? Last but not least, the question, can a Muslim be excused for ignorance of Tawheed? It depends on what you mean by ignorance of Tawheed. And it depends on what you mean by excused. For a Muslim not to know the learned people of that land or people who curse, they say he was a Wahhabi. Ibn Abdul Wahhab is a devil. Ibn Abdul Wahhab was a British agent, and kada, and kada, and kada, and kada. And this is Islam, and this is Tawheed, and it's not shirk to go to the graves. And it's not shirk to do this. And it's not a bid'ah to do that. I come from a country, this is what the ulama say. And the ulama who dare to speak against them and say that that's not correct, they're boycotted and abandoned and locked up and so on and so forth. It depends on which country a person comes from. It depends if a person has moved to Belgium and they have the ability to learn and to study that which is correct, or to remain upon the way of their Turkey. or from Egypt or Pakistan or wherever they come from, wherever country, wherever. There's no specific country I'm talking about. So it depends. And it depends on the act and it depends on the statement. At the end of the day, if there's a Muslim who makes a statement or practice of major shirk and kufr, then the ruling is that there's an act of major shirk and kufr. And anyone who makes an act of major shirk and kufr, the general rule is like that. Are they excused with Allah? Do they have an excuse? Will they be pardoned? Can we say that they're kuffar specifically, etc.? The zahir is that that's major kufr. And that's major shirk. And we do not say it's no longer major shirk and it's no longer major kufr because they may have an excuse. Al-udhr bil-jahl. La. La. It's a mixture of things now. Them being punished is one thing. The act being what the act clearly is a what? Is another thing. So it's detail. And obviously it's a very long discussion and a great deal of confusion and controversy with regards to takfir today. And the stance of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah regarding takfir, like I just mentioned. And people who monopolize the title and the term. Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah never make takfir. Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah make takfir. Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they don't do this, it's a mixture. A mixture. So it has to be knowledge-based details. And Allah knows best. That's in brief.
Shifa from Munich, Germany. Assalamu alaikum. Mufti. What does the term, in quotes, questions don't cook rice, end quote, mean?
Question comes from Munich, Germany. What does the statement, questions don't cook rice, mean? This is a statement that comes from ancient Japan. It is a statement that was made by a teacher or a master to one of his pupils who came to learn a specific art. We will mention the name of the art. For one reason or another, we won't mention it right now. So the student kept asking a lot of questions. What about this? And how do I do this? And how do you know this? And kada. So the master, he sat back to him, and it's as if it was time for their lunch. And the staple food of ancient Japan and in many parts of Japan today is rice. So he said to his student in a simple, easy way to see if his student was smart enough to pick up on the message. Did he have the natural intellectual talent to understand what he was trying to say to him between the lines? Or was he dumb and dense? You understand? And he said to him, questions don't cook rice. Meaning, I'm hungry, you're hungry. If you keep sitting around asking me questions all day, we'll never eat. And the same applies to you learning this art that I have to offer you. If you keep asking, instead of keeping silent, observing, listening, watching. And if you serve me long enough, and if you prove that you're worthy, that's first condition. Forget being capable and willing. You have to be what? Worthy. Why do I have to teach you anything, Abdurraqib? Who are you? Why do I have to give you what I have? Honestly, who are you? What do you come from? What's your background? What stock are you from? You're unworthy of the knowledge that I have to give and the secrets that I've amassed over the years. Mukhtar, who are you? Who are you? You say you want to read to me, you want to study with me. Why should I accept you as my student? You understand? This is a real question. I don't need any more what? Students. You need me. So you have to be worthy. And secondly, after you're worthy, you have to be willing and capable of learning what I have to give you. So if you can pick up on it and learn and study and keep silent and don't ask too many questions, perhaps you'll learn. Questions don't cook rice. And obviously this isn't a hadith or an ayah of the Quran, in which even a hadith or an ayah doesn't have to be absolute. Of course, there's a time in which you do ask questions as a student, yes. And there's a time in which you do speak. And everything cannot be learnt just by observing. But there's a time and a place for everything. And one of the capital mistakes that people do when they come in to learn is they start asking, or demanding from the beginning. Why this? Why that? Why? I need this. I deserve this. You should give me this. You should treat me like this. Why don't you give me this? Why? That's bad in the beginning. That's what? That's bad in the beginning. And the more that you pester someone without proving your worth and your value, the more that the door will be shut and closed. So that's what that statement means. Questions don't cook rice, meaning work. Stop asking and bust your hump. As we say, work. Put in some effort. Prove that you're worthy of this, and perhaps you'll learn. Everyone understand the statement? Questions what? Don't cook rice. If I thumb all day, nothing will what? Get done. Everyone understand this or not? That's what that statement means in brief. And it's a very profound statement that I read some years ago when I was in Medina, and I thought that I would share it with the brothers and the sisters. And and we put it in the beginning of Mufti Q&A Volume 2 or Book 2. And perhaps we've mentioned it before in other sittings, and Allah knows best.
UA from Toronto, Canada. A woman is experiencing discharge, brownish red color, which may be old menstrual blood. A week after her menses ended, does she need to wash the private area and make wudu for each salah?
Question comes from Toronto. A woman is experiencing discharge, brownish or yellowish discharge, a week after her menstruation. Does this necessitate for her to wash her private area and make wudu before she prays? That's the question. Tell you. In brief and in simple, if it's a week after her normal menstruation and she has a normal menstrual cycle and it's just discharge, ignore it as far as it being menstruation or not. As far as washing your private area or your underpants and making wudu, then that's the safest thing to do. Of course, make the wudu, inshallah, as the safest thing to do. All right? That's the simplified answer. As far as can a woman have a menstruation after a week of her becoming pure, and what is menses? Does it have to be pure blood? Can it be blood, etc.? It's a very long discussion among the ulama. A woman have a period in more than one, two or more than 1 month. Al-Muhim, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, if it's a week after your normal period, if you have a normal period, then don't consider it to be menses. You're still a pure woman. You can fast. You can pray. You can have intercourse with your husband. When the time for prayer comes, wash yourself, make wudu. That's the safest thing to do. And Allah knows best.
Initials OA from Famagusta, North Cyprus. Assalamu alaikum, Mufti. What is the ruling on equivocation? Can you give some details?
Inshallah ta'ala, it's 9 o'clock. We will stop here tonight. And bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, we will take barak ala abdihi wa rasulihi nabiyina wa imina Muhammad.